Hello and welcome. Today we've got Michael Jaco, former CIA and Navy SEAL. And today we are going to be discussing the Trump trial and Mike Johnson being at Mar-a-Lago is what's going on around there. And we're also going to be talking about the man who set himself on fire and also the Federal Reserve who is printing so much and is devaluing the dollar, what's going to go on there with bricks, gold, etc. Now, just before we begin, you can subscribe to my Instagram channel at nicholas.veniamin, where you can follow all my daily news reels. Michael, thank you so much for joining me again. How are you and what have you been up to?
It's great, Nicholas. Glad to be back. I've been traveling quite a bit. I got some more events that I'm going to be involved in, but so it's nice to come in and get a few shows in with you.
Absolutely, it's very interesting with what's going on. So, now they've been trying to get Trump for the last, before he even became president. They've been trying to attack him, trying to make him president. It took him out. They tried to use the insurance policy to take him out when he won in 2016. He's been winning everything. So we're in 2024. We're very much we're looking forward to the elections on November the 5th at the end of this year for Trump. We believe he's going to win in a landslide. The deep state are aware of this. They are doing everything they can to indict the man because they want to make it illegal or ineligible for him to even run ever again, because they know that he's got the people by his side. So what's going on? What's the update now with the Trump trial?
Well, like you said, from 2016 all the way to this point right now, the deep state has basically been attacking him, very prolific attacks. And most people would never have survived one of those attacks, but he has gone through, like the Russia hoax and all the different impeachments that he went through, the January 6th lie. And then they tried to get him off the ballot because of January 6th. That fell through. Now he's going through several different trials. One of them in New York, Letitia James, I believe her name is basically been trying to come after him for, posting a bond, which she thought that there was no way that he could do. And he did come through and posted a bond. So she went after the company that posted the bond, and that didn't work out. So she's looking quite bad. And that's part of the reveal. So another case was down in Atlanta, Georgia, where we had, I think this guy's name was Wade and Fanny or Fani. So
Fanny,
I call her Fanny, but yeah, Fani. Well, whatever her name is, basically she's being exposed. They became a laughing stock, their relationship and everything. So all this exposure is happening, and that's part of the game. When Trump stepped aside and didn't push to basically, most of us saw that it was an illegal election that Biden or the Biden lookalike was basically put into power. Many of us were like, how could he let that happen? But on hindsight, I said it. I've said it many times. On hindsight, we'll see what this is all about. And sure enough, we're seeing that pretty much everyone in politics is corrupt, with a few, very, very few exceptions. Everyone. I never would have thought that. I mean, I don't think there's probably one or two governors that are good here in the United States. Maybe a handful of people in Congress are good. Maybe the same in the Senate. I never would have suspected that. But this is the Trump, the beautiful thing that Trump is doing. He's exposing all this for all of us to see. If he had just gone in and just like hammered down, there would have been a lot of resistance, I think, from a lot of us. I would have been shocked, at someone saying that everybody pretty much in Congress is illegitimate.
Yeah.
But now we're seeing that. Yeah. So now, just recently, in the past, we've seen the speakers of the House for the Republicans basically fall away. One of those was Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy actually went down to Mar-a-Lago and had a conversation, and he had attacked Trump at one time. And then they're all buddies. They agree with everything. And this is the way Trump exposes people. So he's like, come on down to Mar-a-Lago for the kiss of death. So basically, Kevin McCarthy went down there, and then Kevin McCarthy's taken out. and he was replaced by Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson's basically the same thing as Kevin McCarthy, basically a uniparty. So there is no Republican Party anymore. Democrats are basic compromise. Republicans are compromised. So we the people of the United States and therefore the world, I believe, do not have a say in our governments anymore. So Mike Johnson was just down in Mar-a-Lago too for the kiss of death, and now Republicans are starting to gather up, and they're like, we need to take this guy down because he's not supporting and doing what the American people want, because they just voted on funding the Ukraine war, the war in Israel, and they want a war in Taiwan. So it's the American people don't want this. I actually did a poll on Twitter, and 94% of people did not want to fund Ukraine. So that's pretty close to, I believe, that the entire country does not support this war. Yet we have a Congress that does not support the people, that supports its own ends. So what is this all about? It's an exposure game. So exposure after exposure after exposure. And at some point, this system, when it does get taken down, people will be like, it needs to be taken down. You know, we see all the corruption there. There's pretty much nothing that's legitimate. There's nothing that's redeemable in the system. We need to completely revamp it and start over again. So that's what's coming, I believe.
Interesting. So, so you're saying that Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, was invited to Mar-a-Lago. Trump's got this, say, 5-dimensional chess method to his madness with, you know, these deep state players to expose them. Now, you're saying that eventually he's going to be caught out or on something, which some way or the other, and he will be evicted out of his position. Is that what you're suggesting? Speaker of the House, that is?
Yeah, I mean, he's already pretty much back to everything the Democrats, which is the reason why he's supposed to be there, is to overcome a lot of this, a lot of the problems that we're having, like the border invasion, literally an invasion of the United States, which is going on from the southern border. No funding for that, but funding for the invasion that's happening in Ukraine. It's nonsensical. And the same thing with Israel, which is basically doing a Holocaust movement on the Palestinian people. So that's, genocide is never good in any instance, but we've seen a genocide around the world against the people with the vaccination plan. I believe that Trump exposed that early enough on and stopped that out. So we've seen Trump exposing the deep state plans over and over again and stopping them out. There's no way that they can win going forward. And from my experience, working behind the scenes in special forces and the CIA and so forth, I've been pointing out all of the different things that I've been seeing as far as people like disappearing from the stages of all around the world. We see a lot of people that have gone. A lot of people don't speak out anymore. When they were constantly speaking out at one time, now we don't hear from them at all. So I think a lot of these people have been removed quietly from the stage and they've been dealt with. So this is a process.
Well, one thing I find very fascinating is, President Trump is a person who is hated by the left, the deep state, whatever you want to call them. And according to them, obviously they rigged the election. They want to believe, and they probably believe, that Trump is out of the game now. He's not president. And they're hoping that he doesn't get back in this year. But we're still seeing people like the deep state, like Speaker Mike Johnson, who is entertaining the invitations to Mar-a-Lago. Now, this tells me that Donald Trump has a lot of power, that you're going to an ex-president's house and you don't even like President Trump. That tells me that Trump's got a lot of power. Does this indicate he's still president in your eyes, and he's really much involved, more than we think?
Yeah, and the excellent breakdown that Derek Johnson did for the inauguration is basically outlines it. So we see President Trump get in on Air Force One, which is the president's plane. We see Biden get in on a rented aircraft to fly into D.C. We see President Trump leading with the Old Guard, which is the most prestigious ceremonial group in the entire military. They are extremely professional. And I mean, their attention, when they're at attention, they're like perfect. Their uniforms are perfect. Everything they do, whether they're like pulling the string on the cannon to fire the cannon, everything is perfect. And they did a 21 gun salute for President Trump with 4 cannon. 4 cannons is very, very important because 4 cannons is basically what they do on inauguration and when a president leaves, very, very high level dignitary stuff. So during that ceremony where President Trump was leaving on Air Force One at Edwards Air Force Base, so still in the military, so he basically got a 21 gun salute from 4 cannons. One of those cannons actually misfired. That's why they have 4. And without missing a beat, the old guard basically kept the rate of fire going until the other cannon got back online. And then without missing a beat, they continued and finished out the 21 gun salute. Now, and he had all the military there in perfect uniforms, insignia perfect, everything. Now, go to the inauguration of Joe Biden. All of the military that were present did not have correct uniforms. They were all mixed matched. Nothing was legal in their uniforms. There's never been a president that has gone to Arlington Cemetery for their inauguration. So the inauguration in Arlington Cemetery with the 21 gun salute was with 3 cannon. 3 cannon is for burial. And there wasn't the old guard. There was just a group of guys who were like talking to each other, not at attention. Their uniforms didn't look good. And they did the 21 gun salute, which is basically burial. It's a funeral. So he went to his own funeral. So we know that Joe Biden's gone. In fact, there was something that was just released that showed that Joseph Robinette Biden was interred at Arlington during that same time frame. So this is something that's being revealed. Over time, we see the results of all this. So yeah, these guys are being taken out, and there's no way that they're going to win. So also, we see flights going down to Guantanamo on a regular basis. And these aren't flights that go down to relieve people and take people and, mix the crews and so forth. There's lots of flights that are going down there. So who's going down there? Well, a lot of these people that have done treasonous acts, and they're being taken off the stage 1 by 1, 2 by 2. And the rate is increasing as we're getting closer to some event where we're going to take back our country. And that's going to be very, very dramatic, I believe.
Absolutely. I mean, I just want to touch on when we're speaking about raiding with the rapper P. Diddy, Sean Diddy Combs, who's a rapper, especially in the 90s and producer. I've heard that he's been captured. They've turned him into an FBI informant to bring down the whole side of the other part of the deep state. I think Epstein was another one like that. What do you think about this?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's part of the operations too. It's not just political; it's also worldwide in the music industry, like the rappers and so forth. Not just the rappers, but that's one aspect of it. Hollywood, I think Hollywood's been decimated. We're seeing it through a lot of the child custody centers and so forth. So that is the one thing I believe when we come to children. If the children have been abused, it's like carte blanche for them to be basically pulled off the stage. And that's what P. Diddy is doing. He's basically been wrapped up and he's given away information, just like I believe Jeffrey Epstein was not killed in prison. He was basically pulled out, and he's basically given a lot of information on a lot of these people. We've seen a lot of people removed from the stage. There's a lot of lookalike people out there right now. Clintons, almost all Biden, a lot of the Bidens, and the same thing with Obama and his man lover. So on and on and on. So we're seeing more and more of this, being revealed. It can't be revealed all at once because it would be like we talked about if Trump had basically seized power, because they always know that there's a potential because months before Trump, left office, they were saying that Trump probably won't even leave office, even if he loses. So they knew that there was something afoot. right? So they're trying to mash the scale on one side and push the consciousness in a different direction. But at this point, the scales of justice are starting to balance out, and they are definitely starting to be being taken off the stage, like we're talking about.
Now, I want to speak about the Trump trial that happened in New York City just the other day, where, I've seen protests, I've seen people outside supporting Trump, but I've never ever heard of a man burning himself on fire outside the court. And I don't know if this was a protest or this was in support of Trump or this was something else or he had a mental issue. But what was happening there? This is medieval stuff, from medieval times, this type of activity that we're seeing. What do you make out to be?
Well, we have a false flag stuff. So we have a lot of false flag stuff that happens, and this was trying to make the Trump group look bad. It happened in the Trump side, the Trump support side. This gentleman that did that has been Democrat pretty much his whole life. He's actually supported Democrat candidates and actually helped Democrat candidates. So it was definitely not a GOP thing. It was not a Trump thing. Now, when he did set himself on fire, everyone that I've ever seen that has set themselves on fire have always screamed, because it's obviously a very, very painful thing. There was no screaming. All it was flame. There's a picture of this person on a gurney, and they have straps over his body, right? So someone has been burned. You don't put straps over burned flesh, right? So straps were over the body. There was still hair on this figure, and it just all seems really suspect to me. Yeah. So false flag, trying to draw negative attention to Trump group. A lot of us got on board with that. I saw it within a few minutes after it happened. It was a flash. I just happened to be looking at the news, and I got right on it right away and started saying this is BS, and it basically caught fire, the BS side of it, and spread out there. And I don't think a lot of people are on board with that being a Trump supporter or anything like that. It's people are seeing right through this stuff very quickly. That's the beauty of what we do, Nicholas. We're helping people, because people in the past, we would talk about something like this and people will be, I don't believe that. That's bullshit. You guys are like putting out false information. But now as we start to put stuff out, they're like, you're right. I got it. Thanks. So we're seeing more and more of that. So people are catching it a lot faster instead of it's disinformation. You guys don't know what you're talking about. Not so much anymore. So we're really getting people moving in the right direction. Now, we're not always right. You still have to do your own research. Everyone does. But most of the time, we have helped people awaken to their manipulations.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, I agree with you. But, with this situation, who knows if he was mentally ill or he maybe have numbed himself from, drugs like, ketamine or something like that. Where you're completely numbed, you can't even feel your body, and you burn yourself. And he seemed to have mental issues as well, because we saw a video of him that was going around before this happened. But again, was he a victim of the deep state and used as an advantage because he was unwell? And maybe it was a false flag, but he did die. Who knows? These are, who knows? But it's very sad if if what we saw is very sad if it happened. I hope, it didn't, because we don't wish that on anybody, whether you're left or right. But yeah, is there anything you want to say to that before we move on?
Yeah. So if we look back to World War II, because I've been looking at a lot of World War II videos lately. There's a lot of them coming out. There's a really good one on I think it's Apple Plus, or maybe it's Hulu, or Netflix, one of them, where there's basically these World War II flyers from the 100th Airborne, or not Airborne, Air Squadron. They were stationed in the UK, and they basically flew over Germany, and they lost lots of bombers. Overall, I think there were like over 800 bombers that were lost during World War II over Germany. That's tremendous amount of personnel that died. But it basically follows this group, and it was true, because at the end they showed all the different characters and how long they lived. One, like the Tuskegee Airmen, which were very beneficial to the bombers when they finally came out, because they kept them from being shot down. They basically ended the Luftwaffe. They no longer had aircraft because they were being shot out of the sky. We had better aircraft than P-51s and so forth. So one of them lived to 100 years old. So it was, just phenomenal. But all those guys are gone now. And now we're back to the point where all of those fighters that fought for freedom for the world, we're seeing those same people that did that in Germany and tried to take over the world and are now have taken over the world. Those flyers are probably rolling over in their grave right now. It's like, what did you guys let happen? But kind of, it's because we didn't continue. We thought that all we had to do was destroy their military, but it wasn't their military. It was their leadership that needed to be found and destroyed. So now their leadership has rebuilt itself around the world. So now we have the problem of taking down that leadership again. So we need to be, I know we see evil stuff like this, and we kind of have compassion for people like that, but we can't lose sight of the fact that we need to continue, even though there's going to be some horrific stuff, because a lot of those guys face horrific stuff and they were tired of killing and being killed, and they're like, we're done. Okay, let's go home. We can't stop. We can't stop this time. We have to track all of them down. We have to remove them forever from human experience. Unfortunately, it's going to be very tough, and we have to stay focused on that.
Oh no, absolutely. We cannot lose sight of what the objective is here. We have to keep fighting and exposing this, whatever comes our way. Absolutely. Now I want to move on to the Federal Reserve, because we don't know if they're still printing, or are they not printing. But the dollar is just devaluing massively, and that's why we've seen an increase in gold. There's probably other reasons and factors why gold has reached an all-time high. I think about $2,400 or $2,500 per ounce, and also we've seen other countries like Russia, like Zimbabwe, who are in the talks of this now, that they don't want anything to do with the dollar. And I think even Iran, and this is why we're hearing some wars now with Iran and Israel, and attacks and stuff like that. They don't trust the dollar. They want to back their currencies by gold. What do you understand from this space that's happening in the financial economy here?
Well, it's a continuation of the UK used to pretty much control 25% of the world at one point. So the sterling was like the reserve currency of the world at that time. Now, when United Kingdom lost that reserve currency, it shifted to the United States. And because we know that there's this tri-city state type, deep state thing between the, city of London, the city of DC, and the Vatican City. So basically it was moved to the US. The UK basically during that time frame lost there used to be, we've all seen that wonderful show Downton Abbey. There used to be lots of estates like that in the UK, but when the UK lost its reserve status, a lot of those places were destroyed, basically because the people couldn't afford them anymore. Because that's what happens when you lose your reserve status. Basically, you lose a lot of control over the world, and that's what's coming for America. Now, America has to go through this process because America is on the wrong side of humanity. It's like we talked about before with the Nazis basically trying to take over the world. Well, the Nazis have won the world right now, and we have to overcome them. Well, that is happening in the backside, like we're talking about with Trump. Now, as I'm looking at it right now, gold is down 2.84%, $68. And silver is down $1.60, which is 5.65%. Now, over the last several months, it's been going up, because we've seen basically a lot of the world coming against the dollar, like in China. The Chinese have been told to start buying silver. They were buying gold, and 1.4 billion Chinese now are buying silver. And they're going to get a good deal now because silver has actually been suppressed. So there's naked silver shorts that the Federal Reserve and other banks around the world that are part of this corrupt banking system they have to suppress the silver and gold, because otherwise the currency basically devalues, like we were talking about before the show, and it collapses. So this is a last ditch effort, I think, to try and control silver and gold, because when silver and gold finally break free and there's no more control that they have over it, the dollar is done and the deep state is done. So it is a last ditch effort by them. We see, crypto is up. Crypto at some point, like we talked about earlier too, the halving, which has just happened. Usually after the halving, that's when, prices skyrocket. Both of us agree that at some point, Bitcoin will be worth 150,000. So, and then it'll probably go down through another process of, going down and then back up. But who knows? If the reserve currency of the world, which is the dollar, goes away, Bitcoin may go to 1 million, like a lot of people have talked about. So it is worth having a little bit of crypto in your portfolio right now. In my portfolio, I'm heavily in silver, because silver, like I predicted last time silver spiked, silver would do that. And I believe that silver will spike at an unbelievable high this coming time. Because if you look back through history, this is what happens when a reserve currency or any currency basically devalues. And that's what happened in Rome. That's what happened in Persia, you name it, Egypt, you name it. Each one of these currencies, once they went away, you had a spike in precious metals. And that's what we're going to see again. So it's a good time to be in that. And the reason why we want to have people in that is so you can survive through the tough times that are coming. When this deep state is basically taken down, this whole system a lot of people have been, connected to. A good thing to look at in history, recent history, is the Soviet Union. When the Soviet Union collapsed, it was basically a deep state system that collapsed in the Soviet Union. That's why the deep state is so adamant at going after Russia, because Russia basically kicked out the deep state. That's going to happen in all of the countries. It's going to happen in the UK. It's going to happen in France. It's going to happen in Germany. It's going to happen in the US. It's going to happen everywhere the deep state is. So we're going to see a downturn in economies of those countries for a period of time until we reestablish, like Russia did, and get gold backed, which is, there's a lot of countries right now that are going to gold back. One of those is Zimbabwe. Another one I believe is going to be Iraq. The Iraqi dinar, I believe, is going to go 1-to-1 and probably beyond. Because when we look at Kuwait, I was there during those time frames. That's why I went heavily with the Iraqi dinar, because the Kuwaiti dinar basically had been heavily suppressed when Saddam Hussein invaded. And then once we came in and kicked Saddam out, the Kuwaiti dinar went, I think, 2 or 3-to-1. It was such an amazing monetary event for them that they offered to give all of the service members that were involved a physical gold medal. But the military is like, no, we can't do that. It's like, what? I was like, why? But that's the kind of riches that will come for a lot of people once this gets turned around, and that's going to be very valuable for those that are in the position for that.
Absolutely. So this is what would happen. I mean, their currencies are really undervalued because they've got currency manipulators on them. They're supposedly, backed by the dollar, and the dollar is just decreasing and decreasing. So when they decide, because we're in a war right now, and this is what I think it's all about money, and it's about them securing their currency to gain more purchasing power via gold, and they back it up by gold. The dollar is going to be so undervalued that it's going to cost could even cost $10 for one of the currencies. I heard something like the Iraqi dinar going to $15 for one Iraqi dinar, and right now it's like 0.00 something, for one dinar. But
you can buy 1 million Iraqi dinar for under $1,000 right now. So yeah, And if you get the right deal, you can get it for maybe 750 or so forth. So it is, I think it's a good move. It's a good hedge, regardless. But I totally agree with you. I don't know if it'll go that high, but maybe. Now, for all of the everything that Iraq has gone through, I've been to Iraq many times. All the things that they have suffered, horrible suffering, by the NATO and U.S. and so forth. They deserve that Iraqi dinar to go to 1-to-1 and then beyond. That will help those people. That will help that country, survive and basically thrive. And they deserve that. So I hope that happens for them. It will happen for them. It looks like the Iraqi prime minister was in, because I've said this. I said that all the U.S. bases in Iraq will go away, and the same thing with Syria, in all those areas. All the U.S. military bases are going away. So the Iraqi prime minister was in Washington, D.C. a couple of days ago, and basically was negotiating that for all U.S. bases to leave. And I think that's coming very soon now. Now, another thing that he did is he went to Houston, Texas. So what is in Houston, Texas? Well, that's where the U.S. has lots of oil and refineries and so forth. So the Iraqis have one of the greatest oil. They have sweet crude, which is the best crude in the world. Some of the best crude in the world. It doesn't take much refining, but the Iraqis, from the war and so forth, don't have a lot of refineries. So I think he stopped by Houston to get some oil refineries basically coming to Iraq. And that's going to basically, like you're talking about, will probably send the Iraqi dinar to the moon.
So what happens? What if, right? How do we know they're not going to change the notes and say, well, these are old notes, so you can't exchange these because when they let's say when they revalue it, you can't use the old notes. How do we know that?
Well, I think that would send a very bad message to everyone that has basically supported those notes over time. I don't think they will do that. And plus, the people that are there in Iraq that have their own notes, that would be rough for them. Like I said, I've been to Iraq many times. I've used the Iraqi dinar to buy many stuff in Iraq. I don't see them as basically saying this note is no longer good. That would screw their own people over. Not only the world, but there's a lot of people, like I said, have invested in that to basically support it. So who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it will be just if you're in Iraq, if it's so, oh well. Hopefully you didn't throw your whole life savings into Iraqi dinar. It should always just be, and I'm not a financial advisor, and neither are you. It should only be what you feel comfortable with losing, and any investment actually that you do.
Yeah, of course. Well, I'm going to leave a link below for more information on the Iraqi dinar. But Michael Jaco, it's been a great honor to have you on my show. Thank you very, very much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say to the viewers before we finish?
Yeah, Nicholas, I do a lot of shows. I love coming on your show, but I do also a lot of shows. And to find me is at michaelkjaco.com if anybody's interested. Thanks a lot.
Please do. Thank you very much. You take care. God bless. Bye-bye.
God bless.